time, we are going to get the sum and product of the roots of quadratic equation. The sum of the roots, the formula is x sub 1 plus x sub 2 equals negative b over a. For product of the roots, x sub 1 times x sub 2 is equal to c over a, wherein your a, b, and c are coefficients of the terms in a quadratic equation in standard form, wherein your x sub 1 and x sub 2 are roots of a quadratic equation. So these are the steps in finding the sum and product of the roots. First is arrange the quadratic equation in standard form. Next is get the values of a, b, and c. But see to it that before getting the values of a, b, and c, the quadratic equation should be in standard form. Then, after getting the values of a, b, and c, so substitute the values of a and b in getting the value of the sum of the roots, and substitute the values of a and c in getting the product of the roots. Example, find the sum and product of the roots of the given quadratic equation. The quadratic equation is 15x equals 3x squared minus 2. The given equation is not in standard form, so we are going to rearrange the terms. 15x should be transferred to the right side of the equation in order to form a standard form of the equation. So this becomes 3x squared. 15x crosses the equal sign, then it becomes negative 15x. Then minus 2 equals 0. This is now in standard form. Get the values of a, b, and c. A is 3, then b is negative 15, and c is negative 2. These are the values of a, b, and c. Then, after that, then in finding now the sum of the roots, use this formula. We have x sub 1 plus x sub 2 equals negative b over a. This is negative, b is negative 15, over a is 3, so equals negative times negative 15 is positive 15 over 3, then 15 divided by 3 is 5. This is now the value of the sum of the roots. For the product of the roots, we have x sub 1 times x sub 2 equals c over a. So this is c is negative 2, then a is 3. So the value of the product of the roots is negative divided by positive is negative, then 2/3. And this is now the product of the roots. So the sum of the roots is 5, and then the product of the roots is negative 2/3. That's all. The next equation is 5x squared minus 8 equals 22x. Since the given equation is not in standard form, then rearranging, just making now 5x squared. Then 22x should be transferred to the left side, thus making positive 22 crosses the equal sign. Then it becomes negative 22x minus 8 equals 0. Then we have the values of A, B, and C. For A, we have 5. B is negative 22. And C is negative 8. For the sum of the roots, we have x of 1 plus x of 2 equals negative b over a. And we have b, which is negative 22, but we have negative here. Negative times negative 22 over a, which is 5. This is negative times negative is positive. 22 over 5. So, 22 over 5 cannot be reduced to its lowest term. So, just leave it this way. Then the product of the roots, x of 1 times x of 2 equals c over a. Then, c equals negative 8 over a, which is 5. Then this is equal to negative divided by positive is negative. Then 8 over 5. So the sum of the roots is 22 over 5. And then the product of the roots is negative 8 over 5. This time, we are going to write the quadratic equation when roots are given. And this is the format: x squared minus the sum of the roots times x plus the product of the roots equals 0. Still, we will use sum of the roots, which is x sub 1 plus x sub 2 equals negative b over a. Then the product of the roots, x sub 1 times x sub 2, which is c over a. We can only use the values of a, b, and c if the given is a quadratic equation. Since the given data here are the roots, so we cannot choose this formula. So, we have the roots here are 5 and 2. We can designate 5 as x sub 1 and 2 as x sub 2. We can interchange these two. If this is x sub 2, then this is x sub 1. So, let's try if this is x sub 1. So, x sub 1 is 5 and x sub 2 is 2. Then, getting now the sum of the roots. So, the sum of the roots, x of 1 plus x of 2 equals. We cannot use this negative b over a because we don't have the values of a and b. So, we have, since x of 1 is 5, so we have 5 plus x of 2 is 2. Then, we have 7. This is now the sum of the roots. For the product of the roots, we have x sub 1 times x sub 2. Still, we cannot use this formula because we don't have the values of a and c. But we have x sub 1, which is 5, times x sub 2, which is 2, and we have here 10. So this is the product of the roots, and this is the sum of the roots. So in writing the equation, we have to follow the format. In writing the equation, we have, since we have x sub 1 as root 1 and x sub 2 as root 2. So we are going to write x squared minus the sum of the roots is 7 times x plus the product of the roots, which is 10, equals 0. Then simplifying, x squared minus 7 times x is 7x plus 10 equals 0. And this is now the equation. This is now the final answer. Another example is when the roots are 1 and negative 10. Let's try if we will use 1 as x sub 2 and negative 10 as x of 1. It doesn't matter whether these two here are interchanged. So for the sum of the roots, x sub 1 plus x sub 2 equals x sub 1 is negative 10 plus x sub 2 is 1. So the numbers here have different signs. So subtract the numbers. 10 minus 1 is 9, and copy the sign of a greater number. Since 10 is greater than 1, so copy the sign of 10, which is negative. The product of the roots, x of 1 times x of 2 equals x of 1 is negative 10, x of 2 is 1, then negative 10 times 1 is negative 10. Okay, let's try if x sub 1 is 1 and x sub 2 is negative 10. Will we arrive with the same answer? Okay, let's try. X sub 1 plus x sub 2 equals x sub 1 is 1 minus 10. So this is, the signs are different, so subtract the numbers. 10 minus 1 is 9. 10 is greater than 1, so get the sign of 10, which is negative. So these two here are the same. For the product, x of 1 times x of 2 equals x of 1 is 1 times negative 10. Then we have 1 times negative 10 is negative 10. So the product the roots are still the same whether we interchange the roots, whether we have x of 1 as 1 and x of 2 is negative 10, and another one here is x of 1 is negative 10 and x of 2 is 1. So in writing the equation, since we have x here, so we are going to write x. If we have here y sub 1 plus y sub 2, then the variable that we are going to use in the equation is y. Since we have x as our variable, then write x squared minus the sum of the roots, which is negative 9 times x plus the product of the roots, which is negative 10 equals 0. X squared, negative times negative is positive. 9 times x, 9x. Positive times negative is negative 10 equals 0. And this is now the equation.